Hey, welcome to Tabletop Skirmish Games. I'm Lee, and in this video I'll show you how I painted Arianna from the Core Space sci-fi miniatures game using contrast paints to a quick and easy tabletop ready standard. In this video I'll show you how I painted Arianna from the Core Space sci-fi miniatures game, but you can apply these techniques to all the miniatures that come in that core set. And I'll be doing videos for the majority of them so you can follow along and give it a try yourself, but I definitely recommend painting the miniatures up. It's a huge improvement, doesn't take long at all with this contrast method, and I think pretty much anybody could do this. So the techniques we'll be using are super easy, designed for real beginner painters, and pretty much the simplest way that you could go about painting these miniatures and getting them tabletop ready really quickly, but having a fun time doing it. Okay, so let's get started, and here I've got this little miniature holder from Games Workshop, but I'm just going to put some blue tack on it and just hold the miniature down instead, just to protect the base. And I've primed this model already with the Wraithbone contrast undercoat spray, no glue or assembly required, and in this video we'll be mostly using contrast paints with a little bit of Null Oil Shade. The brush I use is a Kolinsky No. 2 synthetic, and this is a great brush, holds a good amount of paint, perfect for these kind of models. So let's get started with the contrast Ultramarines blue, and this is going to be for the trousers and the top is a kind of overalls that she's wearing. So I'm just going to put a nice coat of this all over and not go too thick. The temptation with contrast paints is to put a lot on at any one time, but you don't need to do that. And certainly for a model like this, which is quite smooth, you find these legs have got a few creases in, but overall it's pretty smooth. So you don't want too much paint on here. You don't want to swamp it, otherwise you're not going to get a nice finish. It's not going to look very neat. And so I'm just going to give it a nice even coat all over, and I try and start and end my brush strokes where I want most of that paint to build up, and then just push and pull the paint around with your brush until you're happy that you've got a nice even coat across the whole surface. And then I'm just taking my time and I'm picking out the sleeves here and the uppermost part of the model, making sure I cover all that area. If I make any mistakes or go over the other sections, we can easily tidy that up with a little bit of Wraithbone base paint, so don't worry about that. But take your time, and this brush is perfect for this. It's got a real fine point to it, but it holds enough paint that you're not going to run out every few seconds. So I just keep going with that and just give it a nice even coat again, not too much paint, just enough to get it over there and into all those little recesses. So once that dried, I took some Wraithbone base paint, and this is going to just tidy up all those lines. So although we're going for a really quick and easy tabletop ready standard, it's still good to make these lines nice and crisp and neat. And you know, this is a really simple technique with just a few colours, so making these lines neat and tidy is really important. So I'm just going to tidy these up, and just spending this minute or two on the model makes a huge difference, so it's well worth doing it. Once that dried, I took some contrast Gilliman flesh, and this is going to be for the hands and arms and also the face, and I just want to give this a light coat. I don't want this really thick either, and then I just want to work a little bit extra paint into those recesses just to give it a little bit of a shadow here. And so this technique is basically just blocking in the colour for all the different sections, and at the end we'll put a shade wash all over it, and that'll just give it a little bit more depth. But the model's quite smooth, so you know we're not going to get a huge amount of contrast and variation here, so being neat is really the most important part of this process. And then I'm just going to go on the face and just try and take some of that paint off the brush into the eye sockets and around the mouth and nose, and if there's too much I just take my brush, wipe it on some kitchen towel, and then just wick that paint away from the areas where it's built up a little bit too much, and then push and pull it around. And then just along the hairline I'll just work a little bit extra paint there as well, just because we would get a little extra shadow, would be a little bit darker there naturally. So there we go, just work it, take your time. The paint doesn't dry really fast, so you've got plenty of time to do this. Then when you're happy, just let it dry and do its job. Then it's onto some contrast wildwood, and I'm using this for all the leather belt straps and the leather holster and little pouches that you can see. And so again, now I'm just using a little bit less paint, not too much again, and always like a felt tip really that we're looking for here, and then just moving the model so I don't have to move myself around it, and just take my time and get those lines nice and neat. And then again, not too much paint, but just enough to get those lines coming nice and crisp, and then just work it along, moving the model, making it as easy as you can for yourself. Then we're going to do the same on the boots, and I put a little bit more paint on here because we do have some more texture and a few little creases in the material of the boot and where the trousers meet the boot, so we can go with a little bit more paint there and then push it around into those recesses to give us that nice shadow. So you could certainly spend a lot more time painting these models using the traditional method and then layering it up and getting lots more details, maybe even do a zenith or prime underneath so that that comes through and gives you some extra depth. But again, we're just looking for quick tabletop ready, so this is a perfect technique for that. Next is Contrast Basilicanum Grey, and this is just going to go on the little baton that she carries on the back here. And I was going to go black, but I thought just grey would work better with that blue, so it's not too dark. And so just a nice coat all over this. And again, there's no like real texture here, so we just want a smooth coat over the whole piece. Then I'm going to use that grey on the gun as well and just give it a nice coat. And there's a bit more texture here, so we can go a little bit heavier with the paint. Not too much again, don't go crazy, but just enough to get it in there and work with that texture. Then we're going to move on to Flesh Tearer's Red, and then we're going to put this all over this kind of cloak that she wears. And now this is where contrast paint really works well, where you've got all these different folds. So I'm really putting a bit more paint on now. My brush is loaded up a bit more, and I'm putting a fair amount of paint and then pushing it around, letting it settle in those recesses, and that's going to give us some nice dark shade there, and then just working it along. And then as I get to the line where it's meeting the blue we previously painted, I'll make sure I haven't got quite as much paint on my brush, and then I'll take my time and go in a nice neat line there. But for those creases, you can really be a bit more generous with the paint and work it in. If you've been following along this Core Space series, you'll know that I've been painting a few of the other models and also going through the contents of the box, and now we're starting to do the rules episodes for it, so come and check those out if you haven't already, and then you can learn how to play, going through in great detail every section of the rulebook. But back to the painting, now it's time for some Contrast Volupus Pink, and this is going to be for the hair. So I deviated from the artwork here. I thought she'd look better with some pink hair, and this is going to clash with the red, but don't worry, we're going to put another coat of a different brown colour over that red later on. So I'm just continuing with that pink, making sure it goes in all those recesses again, and with the hair you can be quite generous with that paint. Now it's Cygor brown, and when this red is completely dried, I went over with a kind of thin coat of Cygor brown, and this is going to make it almost a maroon colour, and it's going to bridge that gap between the pink and blue and not make that red colour clash too much. So once, it's got to be dry underneath, but you can certainly layer up these contrast paints for different effects. So I'm going to do that with this Cygor brown, and then continuing over it, nice even coat. We've got the kind of depth that we wanted from that Flesh Tearer red that we used already, so this is just to change the colour. Then when it's completely dry, I took some Null Oil Shade and I give that one generous coat over every part of the model except for the arms and the face, and I even put a little bit on the hair so that it's worth doing. So just a nice generous coat and spread it all around. When you open the Core Space box, you'll find that the models are different colours. So you've got the Purge, they're one colour, and then you've got the NPCs are another, and your crew are another colour. So you don't even have to paint them. But just spending this time with these contrast paints, you can do it really quickly, and I think it really adds to the game, especially when you consider how awesome the terrain is. Having these painted miniatures on there really works well and adds to the immersion. So I'd highly recommend just giving this a go if you don't usually paint. Right, now we're going to take Sky Grey Vallejo paint and give the base a complete coat of this. I'll do two coats altogether, so I'll just show you one here. So I'll give it a nice even coat all over, and then this is just going to tie it in with the mat, the game mat. And it's such an awesome game mat, I didn't want to do any detail on this. And then I'll just get the same colour and we're going to paint around the rim of the base, and that's us all finished. And there we go, there's Arianna all completely painted to a quick and easy tabletop ready standard with contrast paints, and you can see that blues work really well. We've got a nice denim look there, the pink hair sets it off, and here you can see all the other miniatures that have been painted in the same style, basically just blocking in those colours and then going over the whole thing with a shade with that Null Oil, and that ties it all in together and dirties it up a little bit as if they've been encountering some battles in space. So really simple, really quick and easy, and I hope you give it a go for your models if you pick up the core set. I'm really excited to be collaborating with the team at Battle Systems who developed the Core Space sci-fi miniatures game, and so I can definitely recommend going to their website at battlesystems.co.uk and checking out all the products they've got for the Core Space range. It's an awesome game, and if you've seen the video already, you'll know that the unboxing's fantastic, the contents you get in there are just great, and the terrain for the game is a huge feature and it's incredible. I mean, for the the size of the box you get and for the price, you get a ton of terrain. You can see everything in this picture here is included in that core set on a 2 foot by 2 foot gaming mat. That comes with it as well. You get all this terrain and all the scatter terrain as well. Tons of tokens and everything you need for the game, and it looks like it's going to be really fun, and I can't wait to share all the rules with you on the channel as part of this Core Space series, and also go through some battle reports and some demo games. If you'd like to pick up your own copy of Core Space, then I'll put links in the description below, and there'll be links to battlesystems.co.uk where you can get the full range, and also Element Games where you can save up to 20% on all your game products. And in the meantime, if you've already got the game, then come and check out my other videos where I paint the Harvester, the Devastator and the Assassin. And I'll put all the paints I've used in this video in the description below too, and I'll put a link for those to Element Games as well, and that's an affiliate link, but it won't cost you anything extra. In fact, you can save 20% there on all your game products, and for every sale made through a link I get a small commission, and that helps me do loads more videos like this. So thanks so much for the support in the channel, I really appreciate it. If you like this kind of content and would like to support the channel, then please check out my Patreon page, and thanks to everyone who's joined so far. It's really awesome. We hang out on Discord, talk about the hobby, share ideas and help each other out, and you'll get some perks there that you're not going to find anywhere else. So I'll put a link in the description, and it'll be great to see you there. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I really hope you give it a go painting your miniatures. And this is a really simple, easy techniques to use, and with those contrast paints, I don't think you can go wrong. But thanks so much for watching. Please like if you like it, subscribe for more videos like this, and don't forget to hit the notification bell to join me on next time on Tabletop Skirmish Games.